two different locations. Joe Biden had classified documents in these offices he had at the UPenn Biden Center in D.C. He had them in two different locations. You see, it was no big deal somehow because they were in a locked closet. We don't know how the closet was locked. You don't know how to access to the closet. Who had keys to the closet? You know, rational questions that anybody who has ever done any investigation for 3 days would ask in the first 32 seconds. But no, there are now documents that were found in his private office. The question is when? Because these documents were found originally, first reported to the Justice Department on November 2nd, 6 days before the midterms. Now we're hearing about the second office. Exactly how many documents, what were the documents, and where are they? Has anybody checked his house? And why is anybody defending what is clearly indefensible? If Trump should not have had classified documents in his home, which he should not, then Biden shouldn't have classified documents in his office. And if you want to argue there's a difference between the two things, yes, there is, but not how the political left is playing that argument, because they're playing an argument that says Banana Republic, fine by us. Guys, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here, presented by Americans for Prosperity, AmericansForProsperity.org. And thanks to all the people watching at Rumble. I'm watching you watching on Rumble. And that's pretty awesome right there. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's start with what it is that we know. Biden aides discover a second batch of classified documents at another location. Now, we're not talking about his house. We're not talking about just laying around an ice cream shop in Rehoboth Beach. We're talking about in his private office. There's this UPenn Biden Center. Lord only knows why this center exists and exactly how much people are paying to keep this thing afloat. I mean, it's a lot of office space that a pretty penny. I mean, this is like smack dab in D.C. This costs a whole bunch. I don't know if the people at UPenn realize that they're paying for this, or maybe it was the Chinese who put $54 million in and they're paying for it. Okay, I don't know who's paying for this, but somebody is. In his private office, they found more documents. This whole thing is misleading once you get to that moment, because it's not that they were found today. It's that we're being told today. This started on November 2nd. You're telling me they didn't check every other office and any other place Joe Biden has been to see what other documents they have? Or is there just going to be the slow drip of this story so the left can tell us how it's no big deal and Trump is worse? Meanwhile, I've got two locations of Biden documents. And yes, having classified documents is indeed against the law. One would argue it's a crime. That's the reporting from today, that the second batch was found. A source telling NBC News, as I'm reading it here, that aides to Biden have been searching for additional documents that contain classified material in other locations that may have been used by the president. Again, you mean now? Not on November 2nd, November 3rd, November 4th, November 5th, November 6th. Not on December 24th. All right, it's Christmas Eve, but still it's classified documents. I think that comes before whether or not you have a lovely Christmas dinner. All right, that might be the 25th. I'm Jewish. Forgive me on that one. There's a lot to the reporting that leads to a lot of questions already, but it gets worse because the defense of this is radically indefensible. If we argue that it's wrong to have classified documents outside of classified places, then it's wrong. We can agree on that. That's a basic, that's a standard, something we can all agree on. So why are people defending this so incredibly? This was the breaking news on MSNBC.
Aides to President Biden have been conducting an exhaustive search, we are told, of other locations to make sure they've gathered up all the classified documents that went to the wrong place, because if it happened once, it could happen again. And what we're told is that they have found at least one additional batch of classified documents. Now, that's basically all we know. We don't know the extent, the nature of the classification on these documents. We don't know exactly when they were found. And again, we don't know whether this was anything more than inadvertent error by whoever was packing the documents as they left the Biden White House. But It's significant because it shows that the scope of this may be more broad than we first realized. We were initially talking about a set of less than a dozen documents in one location at the Penn Biden Center. Now it appears there are more classified documents that went astray after Joe Biden left the Obama administration.
Inadvertent? Astray? Are those legal terms, MSNBC? It's okay to have classified documents in your possession if it's inadvertent or the documents went astray? If I wanted to pay my taxes, but my paperwork went astray, am I still guilty? And what is this idea of less than a dozen documents? Does it matter? If a classified document is a classified document, whether it's 1 or 1,001, it's still a problem. It's still a crime. It's still something that the president of the United States, the current president, not when he was vice president, the current president has to answer for. But look at the spin that's going on there. All the ways to make you think, it was an oopsie. No, not an oopsie. And when you're talking about oopsies, who better to try and defend than Peter Strzok?
I mean, look, anytime classified information is not stored appropriately.
Do you think he's still having sex with Lisa Page? Somebody had sex with this.
I mean, look, anytime classified information.
All right, maybe I shouldn't make fun of the way a person looks. They can make fun of the way I look. I'm just saying. Anyway, check out what he has to say.
I mean, look, anytime classified information is not stored appropriately, it presents a great deal of risk to all the different sources of information that the intelligence community might be running, whether that's human sources, signals intercept capabilities, satellite capabilities, the sort of thing that provide vital information to support the national security of the United States. It's supposed to be protected in a certain way. It shouldn't have been in the location that it was with President Biden. Now, the fact of the matter is, as sensitive as this information is, almost on a daily basis, somewhere in the U.S. government, classified information is mishandled. And where that becomes important is the reasons why it was mishandled. Is this something where somebody is simply negligent? They didn't know that something was taken. They accidentally left something behind. They got it shuffled up in a mix of classified and unclassified papers. Those sort of things typically are handled in an administrative way. And again, they're unfortunately very, very common. Now, that's entirely different from a scenario where you have somebody, obviously, if they're trying to give that to a foreign power, but also if they know that they have this classified information. They know they shouldn't have it. They're taking methods or taking steps to hide that from the...
You see, when Biden does it, it's just one of those things because it happens all the time. But when Trump does it, it's nefarious. Evil, I say, pure evil. He was selling it to the Russians. Him and Vladimir Putin were staying up late at night, playing footsie and looking at classified documentation. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at that. Oh, you can use that in the war against Ukraine. I don't know what these people think, but I assume they talk like that. It's madness. Look at the spin. Oh, by the way, Peter Strzok, if every day classified information is mishandled, why don't we fix that? If while you were in the FBI, before you decided that you were going to launch some special project to ensure that Trump can't do his job, even though he was elected by the American people, why didn't you do something about this? Why didn't you say something? Ring the bell, blow the whistle. Hey, classified information's being mishandled. Holy crap, we got to do something about this. Lisa, I'm texting Lisa. This is texting. Lisa, we have to do something about this. Worry about your Trump hate later. We got to make sure the classified documentation is handled properly. I assume that Peter Strzok only texts with one hand. He didn't do anything. It didn't matter. They didn't care. They cared when it was Trump because it was, gotcha. And I argue that Trump was wrong to have the documents there. And don't tell me about somebody else packing it. Of course somebody else packed it. It's still the responsibility of the guy. I'm a responsibility guy. What can I say? If I'm a bartender, I'm working the bar and I serve you a drink. That's how I serve a drink. And you then have that drink and then an hour later get into a car accident, you know that you can sue me, right? You're the one who had the drink. You're the one who got in your car. You're the one who got into the accident, but you can still sue me. So what are we discussing here when we're talking about, well, other people pack the boxes? That's not how it works. But the spin here is massive. And you're going to let a guy like Peter Strzok be your expert? Seriously, Chris Licht, you want to be the CEO of CNN? Could you actually do something? Getting rid of Jeffrey Toobin, all right. Talk about a guy who texts with one hand. But dear Lord, do something about the rest already. Don't allow this to be your news coverage. This isn't news. This is propaganda nonsense. But to get real propaganda nonsense, you have to go to Charlie Sykes.
Number one, that these are very, very different cases. There are a lot of distinctions between the Biden documents and the obstruction of justice that Donald Trump engaged in. But also, you need to hold the other idea in your head that this is not helpful to the Biden White House. This is a blow to the prosecution, and it's going to be an ongoing political headache for Joe Biden, because we know that the Trump world and the Republicans, flourish in the age of whataboutism, and this hands them a whataboutism on a silver platter, and they will exploit this because one thing.
I got to stop. I mean, I had more of him, but I got to stop. Charlie Sykes was a radio host in Wisconsin, and a rather popular radio host, and decided that he hated Trump so much that he would give it all up to be this guy, a guy who thinks that this is a conversation about whataboutism. I can't think of anything more shameful and more awful, and I'm glad he's not on radio anymore. It's not whataboutism if classified documents are being mishandled by Hillary Clinton, mishandled by Donald Trump, mishandled by Joe Biden. Why is it all of a sudden okay? It's not okay. It gives a headache to Joe Biden and his team. He may have put people in serious danger. We don't know what the classified documentation is. We know that some of it may have to do with China, some of it may have to do with Ukraine. And by the way, we should take a pause on the Ukraine conversation, because Joe Biden holding on to classified information that has something to do with Ukraine absolutely ties into the Hunter Biden laptop story and the deals that were being made with Ukraine and China, by the way, that Hunter Biden and his family, like the big guy, were able to profit on. So what those documents are could matter greatly. Where those documents have been and who has been in that UPenn offices matters greatly. Charlie Sykes' spin here is absolute Banana Republic stuff. This is dangerous stuff. You either believe in the rule of law or you believe in the rule of man. And we are a nation that believes in the rule of law. If we were a dictatorship, it would be the rule of man. This guy decides, we do. If we lived in some level of monarchy, the king says, and we do. When you have the rule of man and not the rule of law, you are no longer a citizen, you are a subject. When you are a citizen, you live by the laws. That includes the president of the United States. And this president of the United States had classified information where he shouldn't have it. That's the end of the ballgame. My argument when we found out about Trump was there was no need for the raid. There was no need for the raid. That's the part that was egregious and disgusting and terrible. You had the access. You could have gone to get them, and Trump would still be wrong. But for 2 months, the federal government has known about this, and there's been no raid in his homes. Why not? Why wasn't he awoken at 4 a.m. like Paul Manafort and his wife scared to death while they checked everything and ransacked the place? Now, I actually hate that stuff. I'm disgusted by that stuff. If you want to talk about why the FBI is thought of with less and less regard, well, okay, look at Peter Strzok, look at James Comey, look at Andrew McCabe, look at Christopher Wray today, look at a lot of people, how political they acted. But when they use these strong arm tactics, when it's not necessary, that is beneath us. That's not what we feel America is, and we're disgusted by it. But when it's applied here and not here, well, then the outrage grows. And we should be outraged that people like Charlie Sykes think that he's offering up an intellectual conversation when what he is doing is saying, I hate Trump, so therefore I have to think like this. And I will lie to a television audience, however small or large or anything in between. I'll gladly lie to them. When Joe Biden was asked about the documents that were at Mar-a-Lago, as James reminds me, on Rumble, go to rumble.com/Tony Katz and be sure to subscribe. You got to do it, guys. Rumble.com/Tony Katz. There is no reason why we don't have 40 bajillion subscribers. He said that it was irresponsible, did Biden when he was on 60 Minutes, for Trump to have these documents. Irresponsible. He couldn't believe it. Why is it not irresponsible when Joe Biden has them? Because what? Because we think Trump is bad and Biden is good. Well, Biden is not good. Go back to Clarence Thomas being confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. Joe Biden is not good. Go back to Joe Biden referring to segregation as creating a racial jungle. Joe Biden is not good. I've got a history on him. We all do, and we all see it. And now we're seeing not just the double standard, we're seeing the willingness to throw the republic away because these people want to live under the rule of man instead of the rule of law. And when White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about more of these documents.
Given the position you're holding right now, there are no assurances you can provide at this point that there are no other classified documents out there in any other office and or home.
Again, this is an ongoing process, so I'm going to let the process continue. It is being reviewed by the Department of Justice, and I'm just going to leave it there.
Of course, you're just going to leave it there. You can't talk about it. But why the 2-month delay?
These documents were discovered on November 2nd. This didn't become public until my colleagues at CBS News reported this on Monday. That's more than 2 months later. Why was the public not informed while the White House prepared its PR response for 2 months?
Again, this was under review. This is under review by the Department of Justice. I'm not going to go beyond what the president shared yesterday. I'm not going to go beyond what my colleagues at the White House Counsel shared with all of you as well.
2+ months later, and we're just learning about a second batch of documents in a different office. I have to assume there's a third and a fourth. It's funny, on my radio shows, I've been discussing, well, why hasn't there been any raid of his homes? There could be more. And someone said, well, you didn't want a raid of Trump's other homes. I assumed that it happened. Am I wrong? Didn't they check Trump Tower? And didn't they check Bedminster, right? The golf course there in New Jersey? I would have only assumed that they did, and I would actually think it was really poor form if they didn't. You would check. It would seem rational to me. Well, now with 2 locations, you have to check. And you have to check at 4 a.m. Now they won't. So check at 10:30 in the morning. But everything needs to be searched and searched aggressively. But then again, Joe Biden, he's the guy who told you back in 2018, he doesn't have access to classified information.
Look, here's my understanding, and I don't know. I don't have access to classified information anymore. I don't get briefed every morning by the agency.
But he did. He also never speaks to Hunter about his overseas business dealings. But he did. Joe Biden lies. And Joe Biden is not a good guy. And there aren't other rules for Joe Biden because the press wants to give him cover. I mean, isn't that exactly what they're doing? The rule of law, the rule of man. Do you want a banana republic or not? Do you want a dictatorship or not? Do you want to have systems or not? I want the rule of law. I don't want dictators, and I want a system that's followed. And the people out there who don't want a system followed and don't want people punished for doing the wrong things, things that are clearly illegal, that if you and I did, we would rot in solitary confinement to the day we died. Well, those aren't people who believe in the republic. They don't believe in the country. And they're dangerous, dangerous people. I'm putting Charlie Sykes at the top of that list. Couldn't give a damn what he thinks about me. Let me go to the comments right here. Hold on a second. It's an ongoing process, says Freddie, because they want everyone to forget about it. They're going to keep saying that. That is absolutely correct. It's going to be a continued ongoing process. Where it gets kind of interesting is that Merrick Garland has to now show that he doesn't have a politicized Justice Department. I know you're laughing. Settle for a second. I have not seen where Merrick Garland can handle pressure. Now, maybe you know something about his history that I don't. But I think as that pressure grows, you're going to see the call for the special prosecutor grow. If Merrick Garland doesn't put out a special prosecutor or put a special prosecutor on this, all right, he's got a U.S. attorney out of Chicago looking into this. If he doesn't put a special prosecutor on this, What he's saying is, I'm going to investigate my boss. That was the take of William Jacobson, Cornell law professor. That's the right take. He's going to investigate his own boss. What kind of banana republic do they think we're not going to see when that happens? We're going to trust. We couldn't trust William Barr, but we're going to trust Merrick Garland. It's a weird take. But yes, it's very possible that they are going to do just that. Didn't Hunter take them and store them here and there? I couldn't tell you if Hunter Biden had access to any of these documents or not. I don't think anybody can right now. What I can tell you is that if there are documents, classified documents regarding Ukraine, and the laptop talks about Ukrainian business deals, there's a real conversation to be had. There's investigation that has to be done. And yes, well, look, Hunter Biden's the shadiest dude out there. You talk about his drug problems all you want. Guy's got a drug problem. Hope he gets it cleaned up. He's a shady dude. And clearly Joe Biden is involved. Do these documents connect to that? I don't know. Another reason for an investigation to take place. And yes, Wanda. And hey, Wanda, good to see you. How are you? How are you? Pigtails. Nice. They need to search every bit of his properties and his families. Yeah, because that's exactly what would happen to you and to me. That's exactly what would happen to us. And I do not want to live in a country where somehow they don't have problems and we do. 87,000 more IRS agents. And yes, the studies do show that poor people get more audits. Them protected. Us, well, we have to follow every rule to a T. And then this one from Courtney. What's up, Courtney? I want to know why Biden's aides are just now randomly clearing out his 2-year-old office. So there hasn't been, as I've seen it, a good answer to that. Now, there could be something out there that I haven't seen. My take is that there could be a lease that expired. There could be a, hey, well, we've held this for you, but since you're now present, not associated with this, we really need to get these things cleaned out and moved on. That part is possible. It actually doesn't concern me as much because that's possible that they didn't get it till now. They've been focused on other things. They're like, all right, we'll get to it later. And then push came to shove. And now they did. If we're going based on a conversation of human nature, procrastination is real. But for 2 years, these boxes sat there with classified documents. I want to know who had access to the offices. I want to know the name of the cleaning people. I want to see their phone records and their email records. I want to see their bank records. I want to know where they traveled. Guys, I am not a journalist. You guys know this, right? Journalism is supposed to mean something, and journalists are supposed to matter. Unfortunately, they don't treat themselves that way, and that's a damn shame. But I don't ever take the position that I'm a journalist. I'm a radio host. I'm a commentator. I'm an entertainer. I do all of these things. And there are times that I indeed engage in breaking news. And I certainly do breakdowns of the news. And there are times in my life where I have broken news. I am asking questions that any rookie on any investigative force would ask in the first 5 seconds. The questions are so obvious and so clear. They just fall out of the mouth. What I just said to you, which I'm going to go back and share on my radio shows tomorrow, I've never said that before. But sitting here, you asked the question, Courtney. This was the question that you asked. And I said, boom, boom, and then gave the litany. Me. Part of the entertainment wing. If I can figure it out. And maybe I'm smarter than some, but not as smart as others. And I certainly don't do investigations every single day. The investigators were having these questions before they woke up this morning as they were putting the first spoon of Honey Nut Cheerios to their lips, which Honey Nut Cheerios are delicious. They were asking that question. I want an answer to that question. It's funny. Yeah, they took Mike Lindell's phone, but somehow I get the point. The people defending Biden don't believe in the America you and I believe in. They don't. Not because I say so, but because they say so. Ask yourself what you want, the rule of law or the rule of man. And when it's the rule of law, Even people you might support, for example, President Trump, has to answer for having classified documents in Mar-a-Lago. Now, I'll give you a difference. And it does matter because the documents with Trump, there was the question of whether or not they were declassified. Now, you can argue no, and I'm not saying you can't. Feel free. But at least you have, excuse me, you have to hold out the recognition that the president of the United States can declassify anything the president chooses at any time, simply by reading it, stating it, showing it, putting it out there, any way they want. So there was this question of whether or not these documents were declassified by the president when he was president, not ipso facto, when he was president. The vice president has two jobs: smoke cigars and wait for someone to die. I would make a fantastic vice president because I can smoke cigars with the best of them. They have no declassification authority or capability. So what was Joe Biden doing with the documents? Who allowed them to be in Joe Biden's possession? What did Barack Obama know, and when did he know it? Again, not an investigator, just easy stuff. So there is a difference between Trump and Biden in that with Trump, that other question, because of the position, president versus vice president, does get asked. Doesn't exist here with Joe Biden. Doesn't exist. And if you want something to make you scream, wait till people start suggesting that he pardoned himself. Oh, you know that's coming. That is coming. Guys, I have got to run right here. Don't forget to subscribe on Rumble, and my thanks to Americans for Prosperity, americansforprosperity.org. Man, they let me do this show, and I think that's pretty awesome. Pretty dang awesome indeed. americansforprosperity.org, economic freedom, free speech. These are the things that you love. Guys, I'm out. Catch me on WIBC.com, 6 to 9 a.m. and noon to 3. The noon to 3 show is growing. We're adding Bloomington, Indiana, starting on Monday. We're going to be adding some other stations, hopefully, in the near future. We're going to see what happens. We're going to have a good time. I will catch you tomorrow, guys. Take care.